Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic, host of Bachelor Nation News and the Rush Hour podcast. We have a lot to get into in the Devin story, so buckle up. And as you guys know, a good power listener of ours sent us this nice buckle, which we use to actually secure ourselves to our seats when there's a lot of turbulence in Bachelor Nation. And this is just a complicated story, and it is messy. It's ugly. Devin has, I guess, lawyered up and has a crisis PR firm. I don't blame him, but you don't hit rock bottom till you stop digging. You know what I mean? He just got fact-checked by a victim's friend. How this all goes down is we've been covering this all week long. Of course, the breakup with Jen was messy. You know, it was basically someone was ghosting. Was there gaslighting? Standard questions you always ask. He's got narcissistic traits. Sure, whatever. That's all over. Now we have the courts in the family court involved. Not with Jen. Of course, not with Jen, with his previous story, but it brings Jen into account because you go, how could you put someone like Jen, the lead of the show, in a position where she has men on the show that have had restraining orders out that no one even knew about, and they were hiding in plain sight. We as an audience shouldn't have to do this fact checking. The burn is not on us. It's on the company. It's on Bachelor, the producers, the background check people they hire. So I'm going to get into this whole story, how Devin got called out, not just by the ex, the friend of the ex, the victim, but also called out by the media, Entertainment Weekly. So I'll have that for you. And in my next video, because there is a lot to talk about, we'll have Golden Bachelorette giving a statement on a different background check they ran on a contestant who had a temporary restraining order placed on him. It turns out in this case, the restraining order was placed after the casting was done, and it's more recent, which could be scarier, but that's a whole different story we'll get to in the next video. So let's catch up where we left off. It's been an absolutely wild week here, so stick around. And by the way, I hate to lead with this, but there are so many stories I haven't gotten to yet in Bachelor Nation. We've got Clayton. We have a Clayton Eckert update. We've got Caitlin Bristow's comments on her dogs. I'm going to be covering all of this stuff on today's afternoon Rush Hour podcast. I just can't get to it in every video. So I'm up to here right now. I'm a one-man shop. So just so you know, that's where it'll be. And if you want to join us, we are live right now on Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal, where we have the private behind the scenes comment section here discussing all of this. So we covered it yesterday, Devin's apology. I'm going to fly through that real quick so we can see what Entertainment Weekly has said as their rebuttal. So he basically says in the first part, I'm apologizing to Jen. I wish her nothing but the best. But he also says there have been many stories and misrepresentations put out in the media. Whenever someone releases a TikTok or something, I try not to run with it as the truth because it's just someone's, memory of what went down, blah, blah, blah. With affidavits and restraining orders and things like that, it is way closer to a truth because it's going through the court system where if someone's lying, there are penalties for lying, in the system. Those penalties don't get prosecuted much. And I bring in my personal knowledge here after having someone try to get a restraining order against me, somebody I never met. Now, in that case, it was denied. But if I had ever dated this person, they probably could have gotten that restraining order on me. The courts will give a temporary order to say, all right, knock it off. Let's just see what's going on here. Don't go near so-and-so. Don't go near so-and-so. That's their way of just officially breaking it up. Within 30 days, 28 days, 4 weeks, whatever it is, they will then present the evidence and see if it has merit. So in Devin's case, there was a TRO, and then there was an agreement at the end to just say, all right, mutually, no one's going to be seeing each other. What Devin says here, and I'll get to that. And again, that a lot of new information has come out from what Devin's lawyer has said. Information that we have not yet seen surface as far as court papers go. Were they sealed? Was it expunged? There's still a lot we don't know. But he said most recently there have been challenges from a low point in my past that have been brought up and severely misconstrued. The accusations are simply not true, as I have never inappropriately laid hands on another individual or treated my ex-girlfriend in any of the ways I have been depicted. That restraining orders was never granted and fully dismissed. My college ex-girlfriend and I ended up reconciling and eventually ended our relationship on good terms. This This was the first time I ever fell in love, and I learned a lot from our relationship. It was a growing experience for both of us. I know that I have made mistakes in my life and that I am not perfect, but I have continued to work every day to be someone that my family and friends would be proud of, and I am truly thankful to everyone who has been by my side. It very well may be that he has learned his life lessons. Collateral damage would be the lady who was scared so much that she went to the police and made sure she had them get in the middle of it. This is not exactly true. Entertainment Weekly responded. Devin Strader falsely claims X did not have restraining orders against him. And again, is this semantics? Well, there are different types of restraining orders. There's temporary one, which absolutely she had against him. And then whatever sort of agreement they signed, which is an order, it might not be the one where the judge, they didn't go to trial. I'll share what the lawyer said here. So in his statement on his Instagram account, and he also released this to the press, the same thing he posted on Instagram, he said he wanted to address the many stories. So we got that the accusations are not true. In reality, and again, good reporting here by, I believe, Kristen Baldwin. Do I have that right? Yep, thank you. Good reporting. In reality, Devin's ex-girlfriend did have a restraining order taken out against him. Two, in fact. His ex was issued a temporary restraining order, TRO, as it's called, against him, dated March 22nd, 2017, and signed by a judge at the East Baton Rouge Family Court in an extension of that order on April 11th. Entertainment Weekly has obtained copies of both orders, which are in the public record. He was also arrested on suspicion of breaking into his ex-girlfriend's apartment and ultimately pleaded guilty to charges of criminal trespass and simple criminal damage to property of less than $500 and received 1 year of unsupervised probation. I guess the information that exists out there is that there was some sort of putty knife that was used to break into the apartment when they didn't have keys. And this was, you know, like you have a key under a pot and it's like everyone kind of knows how to use it. Apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, apparently this was something that would be used in kind of common knowledge. Like if you ever had maybe I'm old and white trash, but if you ever had like a screwdriver that starts a car when the whole thing's broken, you know what I mean? No? Okay, well, just me. So anyway, once they're broken up and she doesn't want him there, he can't use that putty knife to break in. That is breaking in. I think that's how he got in. Although it could have been a broken window. They said there was broken window. So listen, I'm not a crime scene expert. I didn't get to see all. There's still like documents that are sealed, but it looks like he broke in and probably admitted to it because it says pled guilty to charges of criminal trespass. So it's not like this didn't happen. You know, in some cases you go, well, you can say anything in a TRO, and then, well, he admitted to it. So we have to assume. So if Devin was like, oh, people are manipulating the facts or misconstruing things, it's like, my apologies for reading what has been published. If there is anything wrong with this, please have your lawyers share that. Devin's ex did later dismiss the protective order without prejudice, and according to minutes from the East Baton Rouge Parish Court, both parties agreed to a Title 3601 stay-away order. So is that why Devin's saying it did not exist? It did exist. And facts matter, we have to be very specific here. An attorney for Devin, Rhett Spano, said in a statement to EW, so Devin's lawyered up. Probably not a bad idea. Because you have to wonder, will Devin face any issues with the Bachelor producers? Did he lie about any of this? And does it become a semantic thing where he says, no, it was dismissed, and they're going, no, it wasn't, one of those things. And that's not semantics. It's like, what was dismissed? The TRO was granted, and then you guys agreed to something. That doesn't mean it's dismissed. You guys you had a joint agreement. You were going to leave her alone. The petitioner, which is the victim here, filed a petition for protection with the court based purely on unproven written allegations in the affidavit and nothing more. So his lawyer is saying none of this was proven. She just wrote it. And so far, that's true. We don't have visual evidence. This is a kind of a he said, she said type of thing right now. But she would have had no reason to be lying about this because it was years ago. There was no sort of, don't get me wrong. Messy things happen in family court. We just covered fraud that was done onto Clayton Echard by Laura Owens, manipulating documents fraudulently, pretending to be different people. They claim extortion. Crazy things can happen, but most of the time they don't. The judge, out of an abundance of caution, granted a TRO until Devin was served the allegations and could respond at a court hearing. All right, that's what a judge does. They're quick to grant the TRO because they don't want blood on their hands, literally, because in these cases, the TRO exists because it's like, all right, something bad could happen literally today, that the second a victim files something. And sadly, in the news, literally every day, there are victims of crimes who had the TRO, and it's a piece of paper, right? You have to get that on the paper trail to to make sure if they violate it, they have to know, here are the rules, you can't go near them, right? But at the same time, it doesn't protect someone physically. On the date of the hearing, the petitioner, the victim, had the option of having a full hearing before the judge, but instead decided not to pursue a full restraining order and agreed to a mutual stay-away order in which both parties agreed to not contact one another for a period of time. It expired after 6 months. This was also agreed upon that each party would pay half of the court costs. Now, that part's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting because what we saw in the petition was that she wanted him to stay away, or in the affidavit, she wanted him to stay away, but didn't want him getting charged with felonies. And you see this all the time, because you can be the victim of abuse and still love somebody. I know it's complicated, right? But that can happen. And you could say, I don't want them to have their life ruined, but I just want to move on with my own life. It is so often that someone who's abused goes back to their abuser and whatnot. I don't know what the case is here because it's clearly a he said, she said, in the sense that it's all in the affidavit, but it's still, sadly, and maybe, if you look at an example of abuse, you look at Diddy and the tape that came out where he's literally abusing, you look at Ray Rice literally abusing somebody in an elevator. That's clear cut. In this case, we have someone's account, which again, I'm not saying it doesn't make it true. I'm just saying this is how you're going to see Devin's lawyer make these claims that it's all unproven. And you hate to say it, but that leaves Devin to have the onus to go, then why did you admit to the burglary? Did you break into her house or not? Did you ransack her room or not? If I was interviewing him, which I don't want to, I would ask all these questions. Did you put a hole? So you're saying you did not put a hole in her wall? Did you not throw an iPhone so hard into her wall that a hole is made? These are the things. Own up to they're all in the affidavit. So did you do it or did you not? Why did you say you almost killed her? Hello? So don't put that on the commentators to take your side when these are super heavy allegations. And by the way, I'm not reading my comment section this week because people are continuing to rewrite history, and I'm just not dealing with that small subsegment of people. We're able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We can talk about the relationship between Jen and Devin, how it ended, how stories didn't line up, but there was clearly a paper trail of text. You could talk about all that stuff all day long. That doesn't change from the fact that this story right here is monstrous. I guess the other day, someone said I called Devin a monster. Whether someone does something monstrous or is a monster, it's really up to it's up to the how you digest the information, really. I don't disagree that Devin says, "Oh, this was a really dark time." Yeah, anxious attachment people. I know a story of somebody who pulled a gun on somebody because they didn't want the relationship to end. That's insanity. That's insanity that someone would go so far, and yet there is a spectrum of anxious attachment where that's partially where abuse comes from control, from being unable to deal with your, and again, it's not making excuses for it. It's explaining there is a spectrum of people that, is it crazy when they said, oh, he swung by her house and left a note in the mailbox saying, I love you and I don't want things to end. No, that's not crazy. That's definitely an anxious attachment if she wanted it to be over, take the hint, right? But that's not crazy. What's crazy is lighting the restraining order on fire, flat tires, laughing about them. There has been no answering to any of that. So anyhow, it says this article has been updated with a statement from Devin's attorney. And also, I guess there was another article that said he was also working with a crisis PR firm, which again, no surprises there. He's a business owner, and this is the type of stuff that is not a good look for your business. So we say all of this, and I shared this all in the morning rush hour podcast because this information came out last night. Now we have the statement from her friend. This is the guy that I believe kind of broke this story, like let people like Reality Steve know. And again, I don't know the ins and outs of how this got out, but what we know right now is the victim hasn't wanted to talk, but a friend of the victim is saying, no, this is wrong. So we see that right here, that someone publicly posted, I don't know their name, we're not going to share it, but they publicly posted this on their Instagram story. In the spring of 2017, Devin was issued a TRO following multiple instances of abuse against my friend. In the Instagram that Reality Steve shared, it was the message from Devin calling this guy a homo and saying like, you're going to get your ass kicked, blah, 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 blah. So that's like, it all links out. This is a random person. This year, he made the bizarre decision to appear on The Bachelorette, despite his well-documented history of violence. After his troubling on-screen behavior, the public uncovered his arrest record, including the RO. And again, this is all public stuff. It's all out there. By the way, I think I misspoke. This wasn't information given to Steve. Like Steve ran a background check. Like all you had to do is run a background check. This stuff was out there, right? Yesterday, Devin attempted to discredit his ex-girlfriend and deny the existence of the restraining order, despite clear public records to the contrary. I refuse to stand by as he continues to malign someone I care about, especially after the pain he caused 7 years ago. In April 2017, while repeatedly violating the restraining order, which the victim says happened 4 times, Devin made threats against his ex-girlfriend's friends and family. I received disturbing messages from him filled with homophobic slurs and threats of violence. That is true. He called him a homo and he threatened to kick his ass. I mean, that happened. We saw that. That happened. Those are threats. His recent attempt, and by the way, you can't do that. His recent attempt to manipulate the narrative is exactly what he did in 2017 while stalking his ex-girlfriend, burglarizing her home, burning the restraining order in her yard, slashing her tire, and intimidating her friends and family. So here they say burning it in the yard. We heard it was the driveway, I think in the affidavit, but let's just assume it was burned in front of her property. Devin's decision to go on national television has forced his victim to revisit a traumatic chapter of her life in a public forum. I will not allow his arrogance and refusal to take responsibility inflict further harm on someone I care about. Devin is a dangerous individual and a pathological liar. I mean, look, this is more serious than the Colton Underwood situation, but had the same sort of roots. Okay. And again, you can't really, and maybe I apologize here for even conflating the two. But just to say, I say this because we've covered restraining orders now on the show for a long time. I mean, 5 years, and I'm no lawyer. I don't know too much about it. And I've actually never really known, and maybe it's because it's a very personal thing, I've never known anyone to get one, to be quite honest, until covering Bachelor Nation. It seems as though the cream, and by cream I mean scumbags, rise to the top when it comes to casting on this show. With Colton Underwood, you had a man who was a closet homosexual, trying to grasp a relationship with Cassie Randolph and place a tracking device under the trunk of her car. A tracking device that was found by Cassie's brother. He created a fake stalker, a fake person to stalk him and his and Cassie, and it was maniacal behavior. Now, he then got rewarded as he came out of the closet with a Netflix special. He's got a new TV show coming out. So, very interesting that in his case, he was able to spin it with the right PR, and I'm sure he hired PR, because his whole issue, again, we're talking back about Colton, was that this is my reading of it, is that he wanted to be liked so bad that he went to the edges of earth to try to keep that relationship there, that relationship with Cassie where, when she was pulling away. So he probably had his own anxious attachment issues for a completely separate reason. Devin's, it seems, existed because he wasn't willing to let a relationship go as toxic as it was. You can't do what he did. The collateral damage there will follow this victim most likely forever. When you meet somebody and start a relationship, you accept them for the baggage that they have. And baggage is a tough word because it's not the victim's fault. But the past, our past, rears its ugly head in scenes of adversity. So when we are, like Dr. Diane says, we're like tea when we're placed in hot water. We, kind of see what our flavor is. We learn what we're all about. And she's having to relive and reopen these wounds. And studies have shown that when you have to relive things from the past, it almost can hurt as much as it did in the moment. So at the very least, I hope she's okay. And if, and it's a big if, there is something that Devin can prove that he is being misconstrued, go for it. But from all we've seen now, it is time recorded receipts of him being threatening violence on this gay man. And we have the receipts from 7 years ago of an affidavit that read very much like this lady felt tormented. That's what we have to go on. That's the public opinion. Now, in the court system, maybe they need a bigger burden of proof. Who the hell knows? But for us, to have someone like this on TV, the Bachelor producers dodged a giant bullet that it didn't end worse at the worst. And at best, they need to learn how to do better. So coming up next, I've got the video. I'll have a video of what the Golden Bachelor producers, again, same producers of The Bachelor, have to say about the new restraining order that's coming out and for a different contestant who I guess they're saying now, and again, we'll get into it next, so hit the subscribe button. Golden Bachelorette Gil's restraining order discovery cuts airtime. So there's new reports coming out that they're actually re-editing to try to get him as much out of the show as possible. We saw this happen with Below Deck when someone was accused of something. They can try their best to edit somebody out in post-production, but you're in group scenes, you're doing dates with people. I mean, it's going to be a tall order. It might make for an interesting season of Golden Bachelorette, depending on how big of a storyline this guy had. We'll get into all that next. But anyhow, join the Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal, and you can scan right here to join us with all of our extra content. I'll be doing my monthly Q&A on tomorrow's Rush Hour podcast. So if you have any questions, you can reach out on Instagram. I'll be answering all your questions. Ask me anything. We'll be back with more content right after this.